Hey, Grand Ledgers. I am in Arizona this week, spending some time with my parents and seeing family. I flew out on Sunday night on Delta, and of course, I'm being careful, wearing my mask, doing all the things you do, right? Social distancing and washing your hands. But certainly, flying makes you feel like you're more at risk. But I flew Delta, and it's been good because they really take it seriously. So on my first flight, there was a young man who wasn't wearing his mask right, and the flight attendant warned him once, and then warned him a second time, and then said, "If you don't, we're gonna take you off this plane." This was before we took off. So, anyways, there is a certain sense of at any moment you could be unclean with the virus, and you don't want to be the person who coughs on the plane, and you don't want to sit next to someone who coughs. It's kind of like, ugh, please no, right? And so there's a sense of people are unclean, or you don't want to be perceived as unclean. So just been really careful. But all that relates to our passage in Mark chapter 1 today, which helps us think about who Jesus is and his willingness to care for a leper and move his way. It's Mark 1:40 through 45. And you have to remember that if you're a leper, you're unclean, you're an outcast, you're not wanted, you have a different social setting. You're like you move outside the city, and then you have to dress and look a certain way, and you have to announce that you're unclean. And so this leper certainly was someone to be avoided, someone that you didn't touch, you didn't get near. And Jesus' movement towards him is quite remarkable. And I think we find ourselves in the story as being one who can identify with the leper. And so Mark 1:40 says this: "A man with leprosy came to Jesus and begged him on his knees, 'If you are willing, you can make me clean.' And Jesus was indignant." Some translations say that he was moved with compassion or pity. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And so Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. "I am willing," he said, "be clean." And immediately the leprosy left him, and he was cleansed. And Jesus sent him away, and he told him to keep it quiet. Go to the priest, but keep it quiet. But anyways, people wonder why it says that Jesus was indignant in that passage, and why there's discrepancies with different translations. People have a hard time thinking that Jesus would be indignant at that moment. Like, why would he be angry at a leper? And so they think that some manuscriptors early on changed the word to pity or to moved with compassion, just because they couldn't handle the idea that Jesus might be mad in that moment about something. And so I think indignant is the right translation, because it really fits with the greater part of Mark, where we see the human side of Jesus, and he displays anger in different settings. And so I think what's happening here in this passage is that Jesus is not indignant at the leper, like he's not upset about him asking to be healed. If you read the whole passage earlier in the chapter and earlier on, you see that he's healing all kinds of people. So I don't think he's mad about the leper asking to be healed. But I do think it's possible that people were trying to force Jesus into communicating about himself and revealing who he was in broader ways more than he was ready. And we see in the passage that he's going off to quiet places to pray, and he's talking about moving from town to town to preach the message of the kingdom. And so I think what's going on there is that people are using these moments, people that are claiming to be followers, who want to out him as the Messiah, to get the messianic ball rolling. And Jesus is not, his timing is not come yet. So he's a little upset that people are setting him up. So I think that's what's going on of why he's indignant. But that doesn't matter. I mean, it's a puzzle, but I don't think it ultimately matters because Jesus does something amazing. He does something remarkable. He reaches across the clean, unclean line and he touches this leper. When this leper goes on his knees and he begs for healing, and Jesus reaches out his hand. And that is so symbolic of who Jesus is and what he's done. I mean, just think, he moved towards us in our sinful condition. He moved from heaven and came to earth and came our way when we were unclean. And so I think the greater picture in the passage is that Jesus cares about us, and that he moves our way when we're stuck in our sin and we're unclean and we're not worthy, and we live outside of all that God is with his holiness. And so his remarkable move towards the leper is a picture of his remarkable move towards us, and that is the gospel, that we are unclean, we're sinners, we need grace, we need forgiveness, we need the hand of Jesus. So we are the leper. We are unclean. We need forgiveness. And that's the beauty of the passage. Jesus is willing. Jesus comes our way. And so I think we should be thankful for that. That's what we need to reflect on as we think, well, I am the leper. So be grateful and praise him for his kindness for moving our direction. Well, spend a little time in verses 40 through 45 and meditate on that yourself. And we hope to see you Sunday. I'll be back. Take care.